Hello crafty friends, my name's Alicia, but you can call me Crafty Al. And in today's video, I'm going to be using some brand new papers from Not Too Shabby to show you how to use 6x6 papers with the October 2025 SheetLoad of Cards. The brand new It's Gingie Time quarterly release from Not Too Shabby is now available to purchase. The I Want It All bundle includes the It's Gingie Time 6x6 paper pad, the new Gingerbread Coffee House 4x6 stamp set, pumpkin spice enamel dots, and It's Gingie Time die cut ephemera pieces. Check out the description box below for my affiliate shopping links. For my cards today, I'm going to be using the new October 2025 SheetLoad of Cards, and instead of using 12x12 paper as the printable calls for, I will be using the single piece dimensions and using 6x6 paper. If you don't yet have this free printable, check out the description box below for the debut video link. For my papers today, I chose 3 pieces from the It's Gingie Time paper pad, and I will be using the fronts and backs for my cards. When you go to cut your pattern paper, you'll want to make sure if it's directional from either side that you keep that in mind before making your first cut. On this first piece, I'm going to cut 5 1/4 inches from the top, and once that's done, I'm going to cut it into 3 pieces, 2 that are 1 3/4 inches wide and 1 that is 2 inches wide. You don't have to make your final decision now, but I do want to show you that because the fronts and the backs coordinate, you do have a couple different ways that you can arrange these papers on your final card. I cut the next 2 pieces of pattern paper in the same exact way, and I did make sure to leave the scraps to the side because I'm going to show you here in just a second how I use those. Here's a look at everything cut and prepared. For my focal points, I die cut a vellum circle and added some holly embossing to them. I did prepare my card bases off camera. I have 3 of those, and to use up some of the scraps, I placed a strip at the bottom of my personal message piece. Now, because I already have a full process video, I did skip the rest of that here, but if you want to check that out, down in the description box below is a link to the October 2025 process. I am going to show you how to assemble one card just so you can see how easy and fun this fun fold is. To do that, I do kind of flatten back out the card base, and then I'm going to place my 3 pieces of pattern paper. The 2-inch wide piece gets centered in the middle section, and then the other 2 pieces that are 1 3/4 inches wide get centered on the outside sections. Now don't forget, you don't need to remember any of these dimensions because you can download that free printable. You'll see here that once all those pieces are in place, this card does stand up and that front section stands out. And the personal message piece, in my original process video, I did go ahead and glue that to the back half of this card base, but then I realized it might be a little tricky to write on that. So for now, I'm just going to put these 2 pieces together so when I send it out later, I can make my message on there and then adhere it. Now I'm going to add my vellum focal circle, and normally I would wait to add this until I had my elements on the front and knew what would hide the glue, but because there is embossing and the front of this will pretty much be covered with the ephemera, I did go ahead and add glue to that center strip so it didn't glue the whole card flat, and then I did that same thing with the other 2 cards, and here's a look at those. For the sentiments, I'm going to use Gingerbread Wishes from the Gingerbread Coffee House stamp set, and I chose a green ink that I thought matched well all of the pattern papers that I chose. Off camera, I did cut 3 little fishtail banners, and I kept one of the negative pieces because I'm going to use this as a jig. To do that, I put my sentiment stamp just in the middle of the MISTI, inked it up, and stamped it onto the mouse pad. Now, if your ink doesn't show up dark enough, you could always use a different one to get your jig set up. Once I had that stamped, I took my negative and I took a little time to center it as best as I could around the sentiment. Once I had that in place with some removable tape, I put my first fishtail in there and inked up the sentiment and stamped it. Because this is a newer stamp, on this first one I did ink it up and stamp it a couple times, but you'll see it was super easy to stamp the remaining two, and on those I just had to ink it up once. For the images on my focal points, I'm using the It's Gingie Time ephemera. On the first card, I chose a gingerbread man that had the pine tree behind it. I thought that went well with one side of the patterned paper. And to add some extra dimension, I did add foam tape to the back of the ephemera and my sentiment. So I have a little wiggle time. I do add some liquid glue on top of the foam, and then I got my image put in place and did the same thing and got my sentiment put in place. I let those sit for a little bit underneath magnets on my glass craft mat, and then to finish the cards off, I added a trio of the pumpkin spice sparkly enamel dots. And here are some close-up looks at the finished cards. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I put together this trio of fun fold cards. If you did, as always, a thumbs up is appreciated. Until my next video, I hope you're all having a crafty day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end of the video. I hope now you'll consider clicking on one of the videos or playlists I have linked above. And if you are interested in any of the products or tools I used in today's video, I do have some links in the description box below.